So I grew up in apartheid South Africa as a English-speaking white boy. I only became politically conscious when I was already 18 years of age, because prior to that, I had been subjected to and sucked in this incredible propaganda of victimization of the white people, where every piece of news, every message we were getting, every joke, the butt of every joke was the stupidity of the black man, the inability of the black man to look after himself, never mind the country, to be ignorant, uneducated, break everything he touched. The messaging was that all violence was black violence, that all crime was black crime, that you had to fear black people. And a huge amount of that fear was that if we let them into the political process, into the governance of the country, that they would do to us exactly what we had done to them for decades, which would be to turn around and oppress us, to murder us, to take our stuff, to move into our houses. It was a very popular story that the ANC, prior to the 94 election, when it was still an illegal organization and Nelson Mandela was still in jail, and the armed wing was exiled to Zambia and Mozambique, Umkhonto we Sizwe, was that they promised all of our domestic servants that those servants would be given the house they worked in when the ANC ruled. And these stories were told amongst the whites to bolster our resolve never to let these black people run our country. And it was only when I became conscious of that from 18 onwards that I realized not only was this a terrible lie that was actually oppressing us as well as the people that we as a white nation, white minority, were oppressing, but that actually what happened subsequently from 1994 onwards was far more of a reflection of the nature of black South Africans than any fears we as white South Africans had been fed and believed, right? And I see direct parallels with what's happening in Palestine and Israel. We've been fed this bullshit of Israel as victim, of the Zionist government as defending, this idea that the entire Arab world wanted to wipe them off the map, when in fact, prior to the Nakba, prior to Palestine being given to Israel by the colonial powers, primarily Britain, many Jews lived very happily and harmoniously alongside Muslims and Christians within that region. They weren't oppressed there. They became the oppressor through the Zionist ambition of a few Israelis. White government for many, many years in South Africa needed the violence of Umkhonto we Sizwe. They needed the odd bomb to go off. They needed terror attacks because it justified the further repression. And I've told stories about when I was in the South African Defence Force in 1987-88, 88-89. The things that were done by the intelligence service to undermine the ANC and other liberation struggles, and to pit black against black, to distract black people from action against the oppressive minority and the history of oppression. And it's time to step aside from what we've been told and look at the truth, look at the reality, look at the history, educate ourselves, and make a moral judgment based on our real values as a human.
This South African farmer bullshit, which is the most blatantly obvious racist shit ever. It is blatantly obvious the way that we treat white South Africans, who, by the way, for the most part, and I am generalizing here, some of the wealthiest people are well-to-do people in the country. They speak their language. They own most of the land and the property. And somehow they're being granted a fast track to become Americans while they're trying to cut down on immigration from other countries. You get that from where? From the brown people. On March 7th, Trump took to Truth Social to announce he is offering white South African farmers, quote, a rapid pathway to U.S. citizenship, pointing out that South Africa's new land reform push signed into law last year, which lets the government take land without compensation if the property is not being used and there's no intention to either develop or make money from it. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you some context here. They're not just taking land away from white South African farmers. White South Africans, about 9% of the population, owned 87% of the fertile land. Okay? Today, Black South Africans make up more than 90% of the population, and they only hold about 4% of all privately owned land. So what they're trying to do is say, hey, we need to fix an historical injustice and figure out if you're not using that land to farm, then we need to have some of that land, not taking all of your entire farm. That's not what's happening. And we need to what? There needs to be equity. And now people are crying because the playing field is being leveled. And so therefore it is now discrimination.
Y'all, don't worry about these white South Africans coming here. They about to be the new help. You heard me. They are about to be the new help. They got rid of all the people tending the land. All the immigrants that were tending the land are gone. So what they about to do, replace them with the white South African workers. Y'all gonna be working to feed black folks. As y'all should. Get y'all asses over here and do y'all goddamn job. Y'all think y'all getting away from us. Y'all not. Y'all just gonna be working for us. Come on in the room. See, Trump knew he couldn't get our asses out there. There's no way in hell you're gonna get black folks out there to work no kind of land. He could say, hey, these South Africans are being suppressed. Their land is being taken away from them. They need to come over here and seek retribution. And get y'all asses in the field where the fuck y'all belong. Make sure y'all picking every fucking vegetable and don't miss out on anything. Y'all not getting away from black folks. Y'all gonna be around us a lot more. And unlike the ones in South Africa, we don't give a fuck. You're not gonna be able to call us colored. You're gonna get your dome rocked. So be careful, tread lightly. And remember, we don't see you as African. We see you as colonizers of an apartheid. Welcome to America.
This is for the Americans. If you're not an American, feel free to watch, but please try and get it to the Americans. My name is Bianca van Wyk, born in South Africa, live in South Africa. Today you will be welcoming the so-called white Afrikaans refugees. They are there based on an offer made to them, which I must say was informed by disinformation about South Africa. Now, I've seen a lot of takes on who Americans think they are receiving. Okay, you are not getting successful, professional, white, middle class South Africans that are fleeing South Africa. The people you are getting are the people that believe that there is discrimination against them based on their race. Keep in mind, we live in the most unequal country in the world. We have, for instance, 70% of agricultural land and agricultural holdings are owned by white South Africans. 62 to 68% of top leadership positions in corporate are filled by white males. There is a huge salary disparity between white South Africans and the rest of the population. And there are a number of other indicators which shows you that this story of discrimination based on race is false. Another thing that I wanted to say is that you will get certain so-called refugees that have experienced crime. However, in South Africa, no one is exempt. These people that you are welcoming assume because they're white, they should not experience crime. The people most affected by crime in South Africa happen to be black people that live in poverty. So as you open your doors and welcome people, and you're going to get a lot of information and disinformation from these people, please do keep that in mind. Oh, I also would like to say all the best and good luck to the Americans.
Hey guys, just a word of advice to the white people that came from South Africa that are coming to America, the land of the free. You're coming to America. Welcome to America. I heard you're here now. Here's a word of advice from me to y'all. I know y'all going to be settling in, I heard it's going to be in Idaho and North Carolina. That's where y'all going to be settling. Just a word of advice. The black people here are not like the black folk that you're used to in Africa, the ones that were working for you, the ones that you were talking down on. The African Americans over here, you better not start with them black folk over here. You better watch your back. They're different. You're not going to have maids. You're going to do your own dishes. You're going to clean your own house. You're going to cook your own food unless if you can afford to go to the restaurant and eat some restaurant food. That's just a word of advice. I mean, I just thought I would just, be nice enough to share that little bit of info with y'all. Because in Africa, y'all got maids cooking for you, cleaning for you, doing your yard, doing everything for you. We don't got none of that over here. Because over there, you were paying them little money, change money. Over here, you want a maid, you're going to pay them $20 an hour or more. Because it's a job. Anyway, I just thought I would just share that information with y'all. Have fun in America.
After witnessing the way that the Trump administration has made an entire spectacle of how they have decided to welcome this group of South African refugees, the Afrikaans, if you are still pro-Trump, and you're trying to convince me and any other person of color that you are pro-Trump while simultaneously not being a racist, you're a fucking liar. And one thing that I cannot stand is somebody who's going to lie in my face because you're insulting my intelligence. You actually think that I'm stupid enough to believe whatever it is that you want to feed me. I can't get over how our government made an entire spectacle of receiving this group of white foreigners. I can't get over it. I can't get over the fact that it was our tax-paying dollars, both documented and undocumented, because even if you're not documented, you're still putting money into the economy. You're still paying taxes for items that you purchase. It's our tax-paying dollars that help set up this whole spectacle of receiving these white foreigners. I'm not going to call them refugees, because how are you going to be a refugee when you were the oppressor in South Africa? You were the oppressor in South Africa. While being the minority, you and your race owned 70% of their land. But you want to come over here and call yourself a refugee? Nah. So the fact that these white foreigners are coming in, right? They were met with press. They might as well have rolled out the fucking red carpet for them. We had our actual government officials taking time out of their busy day with the state that America is in today. They decided that it was more important to welcome this group of white foreigners. And the problem is, this would not happen if it was any other group of people. And you know that. You know that. If it was any other race, you think they would be getting the type of welcome? The welcome committee, the welcome party? You think that they would have been welcomed with open arms this way? No, it wouldn't have been this big ass spectacle. I want you guys to look at this.
The first group of white South Africans granted refugee status has arrived in the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau greeted them at Dulles Airport in Virginia on Monday.
Look at the greeting.
The president made it clear that Afrikaners in South Africa who were the victims of unjust racial discrimination would be welcome to come to the United States.
President Donald Trump has blocked mostly non-white refugee admissions from the rest of the world. But in February, also resettle Afrikaners, the descendants of mostly Dutch settlers. The move has drawn criticism from Democrats and stirred confusion in South Africa.
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed.
Trump made those comments on Monday when asked why South Africans were being prioritized. He did not provide evidence.
White South Africans.
It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white.
South Africa maintains there is no evidence of persecution, and that claims of a, quote, white genocide in the country have not been backed up by evidence. The once ruling white minority has retained most of its wealth amassed since colonial times and still own 3/4 of private land, with about 20 times the wealth of the black majority. That's according to international academic journal The Review of Political Economy. But the claim that white South Africans face discrimination has become an established trope in right-wing online chat rooms, one that's been echoed by Trump's white South African-born ally Elon Musk. A spokesperson for the U.S.
You see what I'm talking about? He suspended the application process for all non-white people. All non-white people. Meanwhile, this group of, and you see what they called them, Africans, the term that's only for the white people, right? They were met with open arms. These are people that descend from German and Dutch descendant. Okay? They're welcome in America. And you saw what your president said. They're being killed. Meanwhile, here in ICE custody, a Haitian woman died. We still don't know what happened to her. You have people that are being picked up off the street for random shit and being taken into ICE custody where they're literally dealing with some of the most disgusting conditions, the living conditions. You understand? You have a government, an administration that's not only just taking you out and saying that you have to leave, but they're purposely bringing you to El Salvador to go and work in that mega prison. We have a 19-year-old Venezuelan boy that's in El Salvador right now when he was supposed to be deported to Venezuela. Why is he in El Salvador? Why is he in El Salvador? We have a 19-year-old student that's currently in ICE custody right now. A little Latino girl, Hispanic woman. You understand? Because they decided to take away DACA. So now she is undocumented. You understand? And they're refusing to let her go. God knows what they're doing to her. We had a green card holder, this Indian man. His name is Kunal Abori, 37 years old. ICE took him into custody for 2 months and he's documented. But you saw the way that those white foreigners were being accepted here on American soil. Whose homes do you think that they're taking? Whose homes do you think that this administration is moving them into? Huh? Because I bet money it's some of the homes of the people that have been deported already. I bet money. Y'all can say it's a conspiracy all you want, but in order for us to make space for the ones that you want, you got to get rid of some, right? To the point where this administration has even gone as far as giving you guys incentives to self-deport. If you are literally building an administration that is so dead set on immigration and all of that, why are you actively taking in people? And we can't help but notice that the people that you're taking in look very different from the people that you're kicking out. The people that you're kicking out, they don't look like those that just got this whole welcome committee from America. And these are people that are being killed, that are being targeted, are dealing with racial injustice. So all of the reasons in which you are saying why we should accept this group of white foreigners, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because the same migrants, the same immigrants that you're kicking out actually deal with all of those fucking problems. Right here in America. Right here in America. And you got the nerve to try to say that, oh yeah, like that's the reason they're dealing with racial injustice. The white farmers are being killed. What about the black people here in America that's being killed? What about them? What about the children that are being poisoned right now by fucking Elon Musk and his fucking 35 gas turbines when his company only had permits to run 15? What about that? Literally filling our historically black neighborhoods with pollutants, with pollutions that can cause cancer, asthma, respiratory illnesses. What about that? You talking about you care that, oh, they're getting killed. If you really cared, if this administration cared about motherfuckers getting killed, you'd pay attention to the ones that are being killed right in front of your front lawn. You'd pay attention to that first.
I've lived in 5 different countries in Africa. I've lived in Malawi, Botswana, Zambia, Morocco, and Nigeria. I've also traveled extensively in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and Egypt. Never once in all my years of living or traveling on the African continent have I been mistreated in any way because of my ethnicity, because of my skin color. And this is in spite of the fact that I come from a country who are guilty for some of the worst colonial crimes ever inflicted throughout human history. That's right, I was born in Great Britain. And without doubt, the British and the French committed the greatest atrocities across the continent of Africa. The Belgians have a good claim for the greatest atrocity in their treatment of the Congolese, but if one looks at it as an entity and the number of countries that were invaded by the British and French colonialists, one will see that they are the worst protagonists. Despite this, and despite the behavior of my ancestors, I have never been mistreated. In fact, I have been welcomed warmly in all of the countries I have lived in or visited. And when in Africa, I don't cocoon myself in some enclave dome which is inhabited by people who like to refer to themselves as expats. I hate that term. But no, I integrate as much as possible within local society. I will go to a shebeen. I will go to any compound and experience life as it is for people in the country where I am based. So whether that's in the village, whether it's in the township, whether it's in the local bar, I will integrate, I will mix, and I am always made welcome. Now contrast that with the way many Africans are treated when they choose to live in the United Kingdom or France or other parts of Europe. The difference is incredible. The everyday racism experienced by African people on the European continent is a crime against humanity. Now, there are different types of racism. The most obvious is the day-to-day experience that an African will have whilst living in parts of Europe. The name calling, the staring, the subtle discrimination. And for many Africans, they will just brush it off because it is so common that they just get used to it, sadly. Worse, though, is the institutional and structural racism that Africans have to abide with. The restrictions on their movements, the fact that most passports emulating from the African continent will only allow Africans to travel visa-free to a handful of countries. And most of those will be other African countries or countries in the Caribbean. And moreover, the difficulty that Africans have finding work in Europe is unimaginable. People who are qualified as doctors, accountants, lawyers, university lecturers, nurses, teachers do not have their qualifications and experiences recognized by most European countries. I know many people from Africa working in various parts of Europe as security guards or as care assistants when back home they had highly skilled professional jobs. But that experience is rarely recognized when they come to Europe unless they come as part of a transfer with an existing company. But if they come because they've migrated to Europe, their chances of accessing the sort of job which they are eminently capable of is slim. Now, if a black person was making this video, they would be quickly dismissed. They'd be dismissed as having an axe to grind or always trying to find problems. And again, that's part of racism. The fact that I can speak because of my white privilege means that I have a duty to do so, not because I'm married to an African woman or because I have many African friends, but because I like to think I'm a decent human being who appreciates the value in every person on our planet.
You know, I'll not comment or I'll not say that Africans sometimes, or the black sometimes, behave badly. I will not say that. So these, okay, from the old videos I've watched online, I can say that there's always that attention between a black skinned person and a white skinned person. So you can't blame, or when maybe you've seen like the video of a woman crying at the airport, like there's a racial discrimination in South Africa or so, but it's the system. But remember, this system, it's those white, the apartheid, or those colonizers that put this system in place. That this system favored, gave economic advantage of a white person over a black person. So we all seen like people claiming it's the white people are actually a smaller percentage in South Africa, but they like own a large percent of land in South Africa. We all seen, or if you go actually to South Africa, you know, or any African country, maybe with the exception of Burkina Faso now, but you'll find that a majority of big hotels in the cities are owned by white people. Majority of hotels, these are large plantation of farm of agricultural produce, the vegetables are owned by the white people, you know. And when we walk on neighborhood, on white neighborhood community, you actually see a lot of security people around. We all see large fences that have been erected up to the top there. And what's the purpose of this? Is to separate or to make these people actually like for security reason. I know a black person sometimes may be violent, maybe if you ask him something, or when he asks a white person something and they don't get it in return. So my question is, okay, we all encourage the interracial actually living, a sense of community living, but the system that was established, you know, the system that actually discriminated these black people for a very long time, is a system that caused all those economic disparities that are being witnessed in many African countries. So this atmosphere around makes, you know, a black person to feel so inferior, you know. And when you press something to extreme corner, I think it will reach a point, a breaking point, where this person will actually want to fight back. So what is happening in South Africa now is people are fighting back. People want their land back. There's no sense of maybe people feel like there's large pieces of land that is owned by one person and they are squatters somewhere. I know something funny, to even these white people, they don't have that sense of helping each other. Yeah, that's true. Have you seen videos of white slums where actually the white people are living in the streets in a slum area? We all know, or when you see, we know that the economy now doesn't favor a white person. It's either you have a lot of money or you suffer. You know? And you guys, okay, if you have a lot of money, you can give your family a better opportunity to go and study abroad, you know, trying to actually feel to not make them compete for these little available jobs that are available in the country. I saw a comment of a woman somewhere actually on TikTok saying that she has like 2 law degrees and she's jobless. That's a white person. Then I liked how people responded with the comments like, okay, I have 3 degrees or have masters and I'm jobless. So does it mean that that whites, the black are stealing your jobs? I think it's high time that the black or the white community should try to find ways on actually minimizing the over dependence of the small available opportunities inside that country. You guys have money. You guys can sponsor your kids to go abroad to USA. Look a person like Elon Musk, a South African, you know. Where is it now? In America. So if you have that opportunity, you know, you're trying to like decongest the small available jobs. So the black man will always fight for what they think it's rightful theirs, and that will not stop. So if you hate them, they are trying to fight. They're trying to gain that small thing. Yeah. So don't complain when they are pushing back. No. Okay, I don't have a problem with the 49 being actually imported to America. I don't have a problem with that. But do they deserve that? Or are they the really people that are in need, you know? Because there's what you want and what you need. So these people wanted to go to America, but they don't need to go to America. There are people from war-torn countries, you know, like Afghan, you know, like Haiti, like Sudan, like Congo, who actually need that sense of security. They're actually running out from the persecution or the prosecution from their countries. These are the real refugees that actually needs to be given opportunities. And the black people in South Africa, the black people in America, I like how they are giving warnings. They're telling them that, you know, you used to actually discriminate people in your country. Don't think that those black that are there in South Africa are the same as those in America. These people will have to fight back for what is theirs, you know. These people earned what is there. So when they're saying be warned, okay, be warned. So please write down in the comment section, what do you think? Is there really, or are the Africans really discriminating or threatening the lives of those white Afrikaners that are in South Africa. And is them moving to America the best idea? Write down in the comment section and tell us what you think. Please like, share with your friends, and thank you for the next time.